Good day. I've been wanting to make a game for quite some while now, and I've finally found the motivation to actually start. Now, this isn't the game I want to make, but it's a game I'm going to make myself familiar with it, because the technologies I've chosen are Rust for the game engine itself, and then going to use the browser as the rendering engine. Now, not a lot of people do that, so I need to pretty much figure out everything myself, which is fine. Let's talk about what a game engine actually is supposed to do. So in a game engine, we have something like the game loop, and this game loop does a bunch of things. It reads input-output, it renders, and it updates the game state. So it has these three responsibilities that it needs to do and basically runs infinitely, right? So I've decided to model my game as a state machine. Basically, that means I've got some state A here and some other state B and so on and so forth. And then I've got paths between these states. And there's rules for when this transitions. For example, clicks. Well, I have no clicks. Confirms start game. So this might be, for example, be main menu. And this could be then just playing game. And then we could have something like causes pause. And then this would be game pause menu. And then we could, for example, have on quit here and maybe another arrow on continue. That is the approach I've chosen to model the game with. And the reason I've chosen this is because this plays quite well with how Rust programs are actually structured. So let's quickly look at the actual game itself. I haven't gotten very far yet. It's deployed on GitHub pages here. And it's basically just menus for now. There's a settings, which is empty. If you quit the game, it stops and you control it with a keyboard. We can start the game, which will show us a map. So the style of game I'm planning on making is like kind of a Slay the Spire ripoff. So the way you play it is you start on a map, you have nodes, and you can traverse these nodes over time, and every time you enter a node, you start some sort of event. So for now, I just have a map, and then if you hit escape, you get to the pause menu. You can continue back to the map, you can save and quit, which will save the game, and then you can continue it. Or you can abort the game, which will discard the game session, right? That's all there is currently. It's nothing complicated, it's still figuring out how to make everything work, basically. So, talked about the state machine, so I have the game states themselves here in this run state. And then the game loop itself basically is just a giant loop here, which is just one switch statement. And we're going to figure out which state we're in. For example, if we're in the initializing state, we're going to figure out if we have a save game. And then if we have a save game, we start. If we don't have a save game, we start the main menu on the default option. And if we have a save game, we're going to start out on the continue state in the main menu. And similarly, if we are showing the main menu of some item of the menu, then we're just going to render it to the screen. And if we look at how a handle function works, and all handle functions look basically the same, is it's going to render to the screen, which will return an action, and then it will process the action, which will return a new run state. That is the update of the state then that happens. And the main menu is similarly just a enum, just a set of options. And it has three rules, like what happens when we progress to the next item, what happens if we go to the previous item, and what happens if we are clicking confirm. Well, pressing confirm, there's no click in my game. Right, so this is all interesting, but how does this actually work with a browser? And this is where the WASM library comes in. And it has a lot of issues that I'm not too happy with. Maybe I'll write my own or modify and fork it. I don't know yet, but I'm not too happy with its limitations. But for now, it works. So I'm grabbing the request animation frame and cancel animation frame to have a main loop running. And then these are the actual game functions, like render main menu, render settings menu, etc., etc., and for saving game and application logic. And every function basically does the same thing. It returns a result, which contains the action that was taken on this frame, and then a general JavaScript value because errors happen. So one could ask, so what down here? Why is this just a JS value? And that's one of the limitations of the library. Here I have to do manual serialization and deserialization because these are they're more complex types, and the library just doesn't work with them. Okay, so rendering. How does this happen? Well, to be simple, this is a React application that renders the game itself. And all we're doing here is let the WASM initialize. And once it's actually running, the engine is set up, then we're going to create our render call here into React. The app itself just tracks which view we're currently on, which game mode, like what are we doing in the game? Like are we showing the main menu? Are we showing the map, etc., etc.? Which just has one use effect where we are actually setting up these functions. And we saw earlier the list of functions here. This is the same list. And this is how they're connected, basically. So these functions will be bound to these definitions here. And they need to be set up. Like there needs to be some JavaScript code here to actually execute this. And this is what the setup here does. The reason this happens within React is that React, I need to be inside of React and React state to actually work with React, which is why they're happening in a use effect here, right? And then above here, they're just declared ones. And this declare foreign here just throws an error if they haven't been defined yet. And then saving just goes through local state. And let's look at the menu, how a menu actually works. If we look at the main menu here, for example, we have a key map that translates keyboard inputs to menu actions. We have some state here that is outside of React because we want to use it down here outside of React. I'm not sure if this is the best approach. I may rethink this, but currently it's set up here, which is the action on this frame, basically. We are grabbing the actual values, the string values of a menu. That's all this does. Setting up our key event listener, basically on key down. And if the action is in our key map, then we're going to set our action through consume action here. Consume action is just this down here, basically. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is on the set view here, we're going to get the setup from the container. And we're going to check if we are switching views. If we're switching views, we want to re-render, or if our properties have changed. React usually does it for us, but since we are getting these values from outside, the identities here change. And this function here needs to be constant. And that's why this is outside of React. If we were inside React, this wouldn't be constant. And if our properties or views has changed, then we're going to reset our action. And we're going to set the view on our container to the main menu with these properties, which is then going to render our proper view here. And next, we're going to return the currently taking action on this frame, reset it to undefined, and this is all it. This is simply how the game works. That's pretty much all of it. So we can enable one log statement here. And if I log this out, then we can see here on the right side that we're in the state of showing main menu, the play option. And if I hit down, for example, we're showing main menu on settings. If I open, I need to remove this. Oh, no, this is the state, right? And then we are in the state of playing the game. If I hit escape, then we are in the showing pause menu, which contains the actual current game state, because if we hit continue, we want to be on the same game. And if we save and quit, we are simply going back to the main menu and now showing the continue button on the continue button. If we hit continue, we get back to the same state, right? And that's it. I'm still working on it. Next is actually implementing the game logic, implementation things. Making it pretty is way, way, way down on my to-do list. Yeah, if you have questions or want to maybe have some input here, feel free to join my Discord and have a good day.